To turn or not to turn? That is the question. That was the title of a paper I wrote in college. Turning compost is a hotly debated issue and one of my favorite gardening topics to discuss. Hi, I'm Amy, a master gardener and environmental educator. I think we can all agree that making compost is a very important part of growing a garden. Compost is the lifeblood of your garden and adds nutrients and texture to your soil. But it's not the why, it's the how. How do we make the best compost? Well, there is no absolute right or wrong. Whatever method we use, we need to support a nutrient rich home for macro and microorganisms. These critters are not only going to help with the decomposition process, they add nutrients and increase the bioavailability of the nutrients. So here's the argument: turning increases airflow, and as a result, heat increases. Heat aids faster decomposition and kills pathogens. When you don't turn, that allows more micro and macro fauna to develop. Studies have shown that turning reduces their populations. There is the argument that your compost pile needs to be hot. This argument actually stems from a public health issue and that pathogens need to be killed. So, in industrial forms of composting, the emphasis is on making the compost safe. If you are an average home gardener, your emphasis does not need to be on killing pathogens. If you are a homesteader or off-gridder with a composting toilet, then yes, you need to think more about pathogens. If you are using a composting toilet, this is something I cover in my ebook. If you are feeling nervous, rest assured that pathogens die in unturned as well as turned compost. So if we gather all of our leaves and put them in a pile and not turn that pile, are they going to turn to compost? Yes. Are they going to compost quickly? No. We definitely do not want to think about composting as a drive-through restaurant. We want long-term sustainability. We need to think about giving some love to our macro and microorganisms. That would be things like bacteria and worms. Just like us, they need air, water, and food for energy. There are billions of bacteria in one handful of compost. What you put in your compost is very important. Think of it as food for all your tiny friends. Nitrogen-rich green foods are important for them to reproduce, so they make more little friends. Carbons or browns give them energy. If you are unfamiliar with the lasagna method and carbon ratios, check out my Composting 101 video. Microorganisms such as bacteria and fungi are important communities in your compost. First, remember, bacteria has a bad rap. Not all bacteria are bad. Bacteria uses enzymes to break down materials in compost. There are several types of bacteria and they are nutrient diverse. The genus Bacillus thrives in temperatures of 100 to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Over 120 and they begin to die. We can think of the bacteria as the first layer. The second layer is the microscopic mites, protozoa, and nematodes that are breaking down the larger pieces. Then we have the macroorganisms such as slugs, sow bugs, and earthworms. These guys thrive in that cooler 70 to 120 degree Fahrenheit range and actually work in conjunction with the bacteria. Too hot a pile and these guys will just walk or wiggle away. We need to put a little planning and strategy into our compost pile. If you have the space, a 3-bin system is great because it allows you to have a bin for fresh compost and a bin for compost that's processing. If you have a smaller yard, then metal or plastic garbage cans with lots of holes work well. Make sure there are holes in the bottom. So, obviously, I'm an advocate for the no turn method, and I use what we call cold composting. Although cold is a misnomer because your pile is going to range from 80 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm nerdy and I like to stick a compost thermometer in my compost and monitor the temp. I use the layering method, which I go over thoroughly in the Composting 101 video. A no turn pile still needs air. One way of having natural airflow is to have a layer of straw. Straw from wheat, barley, and rye is hollow. This allows air to move inside the pile. Straw is also important if you have a lot of vegetable scraps. Straw will help absorb some of that moisture. You can also use the Johnson-Su method, which utilizes drainage pipes placed vertically in the compost to allow airflow. If you are using straw or hay for bedding for animals, then that is going to bring in moisture. It's also going to bring in a lot of good bacteria, but it is a wet material, and so you still are going to need some carbon like wood shavings or straw. Do you want to check out your microbes? Reach into your compost pile and grab a small handful. Put a small amount on a slide and add a drop of water and look at it under a microscope. Pretty fun. This is a great activity to do with your kids. So don't just throw everything on the pile. Think about developing an active restaurant for your little helpers. Please hit the subscribe button to get notified of more videos on organic gardening and wildlife conservation. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a very sunny day.